most recent Boston Celtics losses have definitely raised the concern level of, is it time to panic or not about possibly going back-to-back or maybe not going back-to-back? We're going to break it down here on Celtics Today by Chat Sports, but I just want to go ahead and ask you guys, at this point in the NBA season, how confident are you in the Celtics to winning the Larry O'Brien Trophy once more? Go on ahead and scale it 1 through 10 in the comment section down below, and let's get into it. The latest report shows the Celtics held a team meeting ahead of their Western Conference road trip, which they are currently in the middle of right now. All of this seems very routine. That seems very normal to me for a NBA team to have a team meeting. However, the Boston Celtics are still second in the Eastern Conference. The Celtics still have a winning record. Is any other NBA team having a team meeting while they're second in the Eastern Conference? We'll have to break that down. But overall, what Kristaps Porzingis had to say about the team meeting just seemed a little bit more like fine-tuning, which is always necessary. And I'm glad it's happening now rather than in April at the end of the regular season where everybody's like, okay, guys, we need to get it together. But when you look at the last 10 games for Boston, to understand why they probably sat down and was like, all right, let's start fixing a little bit of things. The last 10 games, you split with the Bulls, you lost to the Magic, a very scrappy game, then you lost to the 76ers on Christmas, but then you go out and you dominate the Pacers. You lose to the Pacers the very next game. Thank God you still beat the Raptors. No need to panic just yet. Then you beat the Timberwolves in a very, very tight game, a very good competitive game. You go out after that, you blow out the Rockets, you're showing people you're making a statement in the Western Conference, and then boom. The number one team, in my opinion, that you needed to beat in the Western Conference was the Oklahoma City Thunder. And you almost had them. In the first half, you had the lead heading into halftime, but, Jaylen Brown being held scoreless in the second half definitely doesn't help to try and beat one of the most dominant teams in the West right now. And overall, they went 8-6 in December, which is not a bad record to have. Keep in mind, it's still a winning record. It's actually pretty normal in a competitive NBA league. But I think people are starting to panic because last year Celtics wouldn't drop 6 games. Last year Celtics wouldn't lose to the Bulls. Maybe not even to the Pacers. They would at least try and split with the Pacers more than once. I think it's because we have become so accustomed to Boston absolutely dominating everybody that I think we're starting to realize that other teams got better in the offseason and that maybe the Celtics, it's going to be a little bit harder of a fight than maybe it was last year. And that's okay. That's how the NBA is supposed to be. It's supposed to be this competitive. So Kristaps Porzingis reassured fans, look, we're just tweaking a few things. KP said we had a good meeting before we ended up taking this trip, just a little bit, looking in the mirror type of meeting where we can see where we can improve and what we can do better. Teams are obviously coming for us, and some of them are playing their best basketball against us, which is fantastic. That's what you want. You want to be competitive every single game. That's what's going to make that adversity stick out even more in the finals if you do need it. So some small adjustments we want to make to try and keep improving as a team and keep playing the same way. I'm going to go ahead and ask you guys this question real quick, and then I'll hop into my answer. Is it time to panic about the Celtics after their December record of winning 8 games and losing 6? The last 10 games, they have gone 50%. 5 wins, 5 losses. Type P for panic, type C for chill in the comment section down below. You guys might get hit with a YouTube ad break. Feel free, stick around. I promise you're going to want to hear about the bad habits and possible things the Celtics need to fix on the back end of this show. I'm not panicking yet. I don't think there is a reason to panic just because we're losing some regular season games. Like I said, the Celtics, we were a little bit spoiled last year as a fan base. Why? Because our GM, God love him, made a phenomenal trade with Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday. We were shiny and new, and we were dominant. But then we made no changes in the offseason because we didn't need to. But other teams did to be able to compete with us. And we want competition. Nobody wants a cakewalk. I'm sorry if you do. I want good basketball. I want competitive games because the playoffs are going to be just that, competitive. You are no longer the top dog right now in the Eastern Conference. That should give you something to strive for. And I do agree, it's a lot more fun when you're dominating teams by 30 and you're 14, 13 games ahead, number 2 in the Eastern Conference. But right now, you should have the biggest chip on your shoulder. And what Joe Mazzulla said, we want the target right here in between our eyes, not on our back. We want to see it in front of us. And now they have that with the Cleveland Cavaliers trying their hardest to keep that number 1 spot. So we have something to strive for. So that's why I don't think this is the time to panic. I think this is now the time to leg up. And if you lose a couple games in the process, that's fine as long as you're growing and figuring out what good you need to keep and what bad you need to get rid of. Because overall, when you do look at the power rankings once more, the Celtics are fine. They're actually moving up this last week. In week 12, they moved from 4th to 3rd in the NBA power rankings. And as you guys can see right now, the OKC Thunder, they're number 1. But then the Eastern Conference king right now, the Cleveland Cavaliers, they're number 2. This is what should keep the Celtics competitive. And that's what we want. We want the Celtics to be competitive. And I'll be honest, I doubt any NBA team that's second in the Eastern Conference is going to have a team meeting to say, hey, let's be better. You're number 2, my guy, out of 15. The only way you can be better is to be number 1. Now they have something to keep pushing them. This is a glass half full situation. It shouldn't be a glass half empty. So they lost a couple of games. That's okay. That doesn't mean you start panicking and you throw away the season. That means you get competitive. You start getting more aggressive. You start getting more protective of your paint and your rim and your three-point line. And you show the NBA, don't poke the bear. That is how they should be looking at this. But I will admit, when you do lose, the way the Celtics have lost in some of these games, there's definitely going to be that little voice in the back of your head saying, uh-oh, is there maybe something we should really work on? There are a couple of bad habits I do want to talk about here in the back half of the show, but before I do hop into that, let me go on ahead and tell you guys real quick about our sponsor on Celtics Today by Chat Sports, and that's going to be PrizePicks, the number 1 daily fantasy sports app in America, the app that I'm playing every single game day, and I want you guys to go on ahead and play with me. How do you do that? Super easy. You just have to pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Oh, yeah, buddy, 1,000 times your cash. And they now offer MasterCard for quick and easy deposits into your account this sports season. Not to mention they put their members first. So all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. And look, this is one of my favorite times of the year. I love sports this time of the year, especially when they're starting to compete for championships. So I will have Derrick Henry to have more than 100 rushing yards on Saturday against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then I'll have Nico Collins to have more than 83.5 receiving yards against the Chargers on Saturday as well. If you guys want to go on ahead and make your prize picks or copy my own, totally fine with that. All you guys have to do is just download the PrizePicks app. Use promo code CLNS. That'll give you guys $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Download the PrizePicks app. Use promo code CLNS. That'll give you guys $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. Run your game. A lot of you guys might be watching this video saying, but Allie, it's the regular season. We don't care about the regular season. We just want to win the championship. Who cares what we do in the regular season? You should care. You should care. The reason why we have regular seasons and not just 2 weeks of championship basketball is because you get to see the team progress over 82 games before competing their hardest for the trophy. And the habits that I'm seeing in these losses are things that I saw last year that we always called the lowest point for Boston. Boston can't win a championship if they do this. Boston's going to struggle against the Thunder if they do this. They're going to struggle against the Nuggets if Jason Tatum does this. So when you see these type of habits, it does make sense to start pointing them out right now, which was why I assume that team meeting had to be something about, hey, we're starting to get a little loosey-goosey. Why don't we go on ahead and tighten some things up? And then bad habits that I've been noticing in these losses, which isn't terrible, but can be fixed, is Jaylen Brown and his left hand. Sounds weird to phrase it like that. Jaylen Brown, sometimes when he can't find an open teammate, or he starts to get frazzled, he starts to take over, or he's playing a team that is a lot more physical than the Celtics are being at that current moment, Jaylen Brown will take over with his left hand, which multiple defenders will start to come and guard Jaylen Brown because they know his left hand is his weak point, and then he'll end up shanking it, turning it over, just losing control of the ball, which we saw many times last year as Jaylen Brown was trying to get better with his left hand. Well, he's starting to regress back into that type of mode where he could be a very good floor general. But when he starts to get a little bit panicky and start dribbling very fast with that left hand, he will lose control of it, and that leads to meaningless turnovers. Because the Jaylen Brown turnovers and those losses, 3, 5, they're starting to add up when they don't need to be as high as they have been. And number 2, I love our bench. I think Sam Hauser and Peyton Pritchard are just secret weapons for the Boston's fantastic starting 5. But when Sam Hauser and Peyton Pritchard come in and they start panicking, it just looks like Chuck City. They're not setting their feet. They're not finding the open shot. They don't even know where their contested opponent is. They're just catching and shooting, which we have seen Pritchard dominate at all 3 levels scoring. We've seen Sam Hauser become a very effective two-way player. When Sam Hauser and Peyton Pritchard chuck up shots, you know what it gets you, Peyton Pritchard, against the OKC Thunder? 0. You know what it gets you, Sam Hauser, against the OKC Thunder? 1 for 5 from the field. 3 points is your only contribution to the Celtics in that loss. Pritchard and Hauser need to be held accountable for when they come into the bench to reset, run with this lineup, and serve a purpose, which is scoring while the starters are out. Number 3, Jason Tatum starts to get a little bit diva-ish. And I'm sorry if I'm offending some fans, but he can. And we've definitely seen it happen a little bit more this season specifically. But when Jason Tatum starts to lose, or his shot's not falling, or nobody's helping him, or he's asking for the ball and nobody's helping him out, Tatum will start to drive and not focus on finishing the shot. He'll focus on foul chasing. And then he'll look at the ref and he'll complain while 4 of his teammates are on the other end playing defense. That's Luka Doncic stuff. I don't like that kind of stuff. I'm okay with asking for the foul, but at least run while you do it. And if you really want the foul, make your shot and make it even harder for a person to defend you without fouling you. Those are a few things that I have noticed so far in the Boston Celtics losses that remind me of a few losses last year where I started to have that concern of, can they win? Are we really not the best team in the NBA? And that's just not true. And when you do look at the Celtics being in a perfect position right now because they have already addressed things that we want to do, a mirror that we want to look at and make sure that we're doing better, January is an opportunity to do that. It is a tough January, but it can be successful. Your road trip ends on Tuesday, tomorrow, against the Denver Nuggets. That would be a statement win to help the Celtics' confidence going back home. Sacramento and New Orleans and Toronto, you should win those games. Then you go up against a very daunting Atlanta Hawks and Orlando Magic. Then you take on Steph Curry, and the Golden State Warriors, who already beat you once this year. Then the Clippers, the Los Angeles Lakers, both number 5 and number 6 in the Western Conference right now. Your former NBA championship opponent, the Dallas Mavericks, Houston Rockets, Chicago Bulls, who you lost to already this year, and then the New Orleans Pelicans. Boston does have an opportunity to have a better January, but this January, I just want to see them definitely hone in on those mistakes and become better at basketball. Continue to get better at their craft and focus on the prize ahead. How many wins will the Celtics have in January? They play 13 games in the month of January after the OKC game yesterday. How many wins out of 13 games will they win? Go ahead and comment that down below. If you guys haven't already, hit that sub button for me. I do go live for almost every single Boston Celtics basketball game, and I want you there with me.